If there is a message for us today, I believe it is to learn to live from our heart in love. These short lessons, hopefully, will help to inspire you to live with purpose, love passionately, and inspire others. We are the change agent our world needs. I'm Helen Toews. Step into the river today with me to explore the mysteries of God. They are not hidden from us, but for us to discover. Okay. Thank you for your patience, and we're going to believe that this is going to get recorded as well. I'll figure this out during the week. Anyway, welcome everybody, and tomorrow is Halloween. How about that? How many of us celebrate Halloween? Does anybody? I'm going to go back to gallery here. Anybody here on? Oh, good for us. It's the second. It's the second highest. What is it called? Retail. Like they people spend more money on Halloween than Christmas, and it's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. So I'm going to come back on. Anyway, I had some requests this week for I had written a number of years ago now this little booklet called Halloween Unplugged, and so if anybody wanted, I've only have a digital copy that I could send. But if anybody has any questions that they wanted to share with friends, why Halloween isn't the best idea, I'm happy. Just email me and I will be happy to send it out to you. How about last week? How about last week? You know, it was really interesting for me this week as I continued in the meditation, you know, where we were engaging with. I just want to put it this way: we're engaging with the infinite universe and realizing the infinite universe is us. We're it. We're in it, and it's part. And when you come to that place of no separation, I found my meditation time. I don't know whether it's because we did the lesson on it and sort of put things together, because I've been doing this for a while. But this week, I just went deeper and farther and zoned out in places of knowing. It's almost like you become invisible to you as you come into that place of oneness that we talk about, right? But it becomes this reality, and then you find that you yourself have no beginning or no end, and you're just in it. I don't know if we'll maybe talk about that a little bit more later. It's really, to me, a very exciting time that we're in. And one of the things that really triggered me into action this week, I'm doing this lesson. It's called Awakening Our Intuition. And I know we talk about intuition a lot, but it's becoming more and more real to me how important our intuition is, because it's our connection to the way it works is we connect to that infinite universe, that network of energy that's around us, from us, through us, and there's no separation in it. And how, as I was really meditating on that, I realized one of the things that's really important, if the lights all go out, and I know I've talked about this before, if all of a sudden we're without communication or something, and I'm not trying to do apocalypse training here or anything, but we realize that last week the lights all went out in Cuba, that in parts of Europe there were major flooding. The grids went out in the States with the storms. The grids went out, and I'm thinking, oh golly, won't it be an interesting time when we fulfill the reality of resurrection realities and don't need the technology to communicate? I think that, like, when Jesus says he knew their thoughts, I believe that's for us. We can know each other's thoughts at a distance. Anyway, so I would like to just take this time and really talk about how some of the practical. I like to get really practical on awakening our intuition, because we're so reliant on technologies like computers and phones and television that we've actually forgotten at times that the technology in us is the most important and the most powerful of all. So when I offered that guided meditation time last week for us to reflect, it's really important that we set the meditation times with such purpose, right? The fact that we are the universal consciousness that we talk about is our reality. When we set our minds and our hearts to the energy field around us that is the mind of Christ, we recognize that no separation, where there is just no separation. I'm grasping for words. That's I have more passion than words tonight. The more we learn about the power of the technology that we are hardwired with in our human body, the more passionate I'm getting to be living in it, and the more I want to develop myself in these areas. Together, we've studied and we've activated so many different modalities of prayer, meditation. We learned from the Institute of Heart Math how important the synchronization of our heart and brain is, and that it's to bring us into coherence. You were waiting for me to bring this up, right? It's just important, though. It's important because it brings us into the coherence of Earth magnetic field. That field and us, we are one. I'm going to keep saying it. As I personally sit in the I Am meditations, particularly the one last week where we placed our consciousness into the field of infinite possibilities, I realize that every time there's so much more. Infinite means unlimited. And I've had lots of personal revelations on this, and now over the last 15 years ago. And I felt like all the things that I've done before are just that lovely learning to get to where we are now. You know, I don't, some of you know that I wrote this children's book on Jacob's Ladder. I've got it here. You're probably all familiar with that. Anyway, I wrote this over 10 years ago now. And I was thinking about it today, and I thought, looking through it, and I thought, wow, that's not the book that I'd write today. But the Father sort of corrected me. He said, but that's where you were. And this book, as you know, it's teaching ascension to children, but it comes out of my own experiences of what I've seen in ascension time, and we use Jacob's Ladder, and we see Jesus. We talk to him, and he takes us the rivers, and we see. I'm just talking about what's happening in the book. That that the forests are alive, everything is alive, that there's gemstones in the river, that we can go into a library and read our scroll. We know more now. We know more and more that they may not be the exact places like that you could draw in a book, but they are exact places. In that, the reality of it is real. That's that's the real deal. So even though I wrote this book for children, I think maybe it's childish. It's not so much childish, it's more childlike. And I felt like I was so glad I had those years of experience the ascension time and the childlike ways that we did it, because in the time that we're in now with consciousness at such interesting levels, I'm glad that we had that foundation. And I asked Father, what was the most important thing for me to develop in right now? And you know what he said? Intuition. We learned that the heart in heart brain coherence, right? That there was a part two, that we could be still, we could focus on our heart and ask our heart a question. So we know the mechanics of some of what into how intuition works, but we also know that we have this heart energy that is, we know this 5,000 times stronger than our brain. And we know that it can speak to us when we ask. We can go into our heart. But what's the difference between asking our heart a question and intuition? And actually, it's very little. But the place of coherence with that we've learned is a critical part of our maturing. So for those of you who continue to operate in heart-brain coherence, positioning yourself in that, spending that 3 minutes, like I do it all the time. I at least do it twice a day, because before I get out of bed and when I'm in bed, sometimes during the night, I have to bring that coherence in, and it's so easy just to breathe and be grateful, and it's amazing. But the amazing part is knowing what it does, what it really does by doing that. It just connects me. It connects to everything. In 2004, there was a study conducted by the HeartMath Institute, and they wanted to examine what mysterious powers the heart might hold. And in that study, I know some of you have I think I did this study about 3 years ago. It's on the river if you want to see it, about heart-brain coherence and asking your heart to speak. But they did this study, and they had these flashcards that they were showing participants. Some were beautiful pictures, some were really disturbing, and some were just neutral. And the researchers found that a full 6 seconds before the photos were shown, the heart would react to what was coming. And I found that one of the most incredible studies. Somehow the heart was receiving intuitive information before the brain. And in fact, the heart appears to be looking into the future. Studies show that the heart relays information to the brain, and the heart is able to think, feel, and has emotions of its own. And memories not only kept in the heart. Science recently, as you know, has been able to show that memory is kept in the field, that divine matrix, that space, the mind of God, and that Yod He Vav He in every cell of our body. So we are amazingly made and have that memory and have that incredible connectedness. Memory is kept in the field of infinite possibilities, and that's why it's so easy for us to connect, and it's going to become easier and easier. So if this is so important, then why do we have to train, right? Why do we have to practice these things? And easily, every time we learn something new or bring up a new subject, especially one like intuition, it's something that we've been aware of, like that we know about, but sadly we ignore our intuition more than we pay attention to it. And I don't know about you, but in the past, I've often second guessed myself, second guessed my own thoughts. I have this great idea and I just let it slide. My current studies and practices relating to consciousness has stirred me up to live more from my sacred self than from my 3D understanding of the world. And you know, I'm going to share a whole bunch of stuff tonight. Not going to preach it. We're just going to share it and let you, pick up whatever it is that you would like from it. But I have been practicing, and it's become very, very important that the reality of our intuition is so important in our lives. And through practice, we become far more adept at distinguishing between the voice of intuition and the voice of outside influences. Sometimes those outside influences can really pull at you, right? But intuition empowers us to navigate life more confidently and authentically. And when I realized that intuition is really my sixth sense, I gave it more space in my day, right? We can see things, touch, feel, smell, taste, but we have that other sense of knowing, that sense of knowing, and that's our intuition. I love this quote from Eckhart Tolle. He says, I cannot tell you any spiritual truth that deep within you, you do not already know. All I can do is remind you of what you've forgotten. You see, that field of consciousness, that mind of God is in us. It's all in us. And I think in this practice, we start reminding ourselves of what's in there. So awakening our intuition involves creating the right mental, the right emotional, and environmental conditions to receive and trust inner guidance. We have to. It's like, this is so important. We have to learn to trust our sixth sense. And here's some things to consider if you want to increase that in your intuitive life. Practice daily meditation and silence. I know I say it all the time, but meditation calms the mind, helps you listen more deeply to your inner voice, which is often drowned out. Start a few minutes of quiet breathing every day. Allow your thoughts to settle and gradually increase. But here's a key. Observe any sensations, thoughts, or images that arise without judgment. For me, that was hard, not because, and it's not the kind of judgment to death or judgment that, that everything is negative, but judging, meaning and analyzing something to death, and therefore losing the thread of what my intuition, what my sixth sense was really trying to communicate. Each morning, this is something that I've learned to do, set a conscious intention to be open to intuitive insights throughout the day. That was something that this week, as I was doing my own homework, I realized that I had gotten too busy to do. When I regrouped to that principle, it was really interesting because by actively deciding to tune in, then I began to notice far more subtle cues that came along. When I engage in mindful breathing, intuition can be blocked because it can be blocked by stress or anxiety. Keep breathing, folks. Just keep breathing. You know the patterns that work for you. You know what rest feels like. Just do it. Remember you remember that breathing technique? I don't know if I shared it last week again, but it's we taught it a whole bunch of months ago somewhere down the line. This breathing technique is for stress release is absolutely stellar. You breathe in slowly and you breathe out with determination, like on purpose. It's the kind of breathing you do where something's come at you and you go, okay, Helen, just breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. Just do that 2 or 3 times. And then the next time you do it, release with force. Breathe in the same way. But when you breathe out, go, oh, like just force it out. Next time you have that stress, do this stress release breathing and see where you land. Because that you can visualize all that stress going out, that forceful breath going, oh, and amazing. You don't forget anything around you, but something switches in you to bring you into a, a less stress zone. Keep a dream journal. I get many, many, many people saying, you know about dreams, help me decipher my dream. And I'm always happy to do that. But dreams are God talking to us. Dreams are part of our intuitive process because it is the voice of God. John Paul Jackson said that dreams are often written in disappearing ink. Do you know what I mean? He you wake up and you say, wow, that was a dream. I'll remember it. I'm going to tell Ed at breakfast. Well, by breakfast time, I've forgotten I've had a dream, let alone the details. So keep a notebook by your bed or use your phone. I have a friend who has, there's an app you can have. I don't use it, but there's all sorts of apps that you can talk into and just talk your dream or your idea or your intuition and record it somewhere. Because in the book of Job, it says, for God speaks in one way and in two, though man does not perceive it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, while they slumber on their beds, then he, God, opens the ears of men and women and terrifies them with warnings, that he may turn man aside from his deed and conceal pride from man. He keeps back his soul from the pit, his life from perishing by the sword. He keeps us out of trouble, guys. In our dreams, he can not only tell you the future, bring things together, but he can keep you from going the wrong way. Those dreams are really important. The next thing I want to talk about is observe emotional and physical responses. Our body is an antenna, okay? Our body is totally that antenna that attached to the field, and it responds to intuitive guidance even before we're consciously aware of it. Remember, that's the heart job. The heart knows things before they even happen. Well, that's part of our intuition. And so observe these things. Check in with your body. Notice any sensations, especially in your stomach, your gut. You may have said, I have this gut feeling that, or in your chest, you go, a lot of times when we're feeling an emotion, we'll go, oh, where are we feeling it? We're feeling it in our heart. Whereas sometimes you're stressed, shoulders maybe, or in your muscles. And these are all indicators of how you truly feel about a situation. So although it's not that intuition per se, it's attached to your intuition. Pay attention to those things. Are there things that you need to de-stress from? And so you can just tune in to your heart's focus. Just make it easier on yourself. Pay attention to unexpected emotions. Do you ever have a feeling like you're just going about your day and you get this feeling like of excitement, or you do have no idea why it's going on? It's just a sensation. It takes over your body. I love it when that happens. And I love it because I'll often step back into that feeling and go, what am I intuiting? What am I into in that? Because it doesn't happen by accident. Sometimes there's a shift in a mood, and you just get this red light feeling and you think, stop. You know what you should do? Stop. Intuition often communicates through the body. Sometimes, especially you could train yourself with your asking your heart a question, because a lot of people have how you say, oh, I have goosebumps, or um, you feel a warmth, like there's a warmth that comes over you. Some people have more of one than another. Find out what yours is. Find out how how God communicates with you in this sixth sense. Sometimes there's a sense of lightness, and and that's a good time to really think, what's, it's something positive, what's going on. But heaviness could also be a signal to caution. I remember studying the scripture where it says the Holy Spirit will tell you of things to come, tells you of all things. And it's easy to be intuitive or intuitive of that everything good, isn't it? Sometimes there's a warning, and I think those are really important intuitive times. We've shared before, Ed and I've shared where we've been at the cottage in the wintertime, and beautiful day, beautiful day. The lake is frozen. We're out skiing, we're out snowshoeing, and just enjoying it. And two separate times in the middle of the day, I've said to Ed, we have to go home now. Not pack up and go on after dinner. We have to go now. And I thank God for a husband that even if he didn't understand, he humored me. Both times we hit storms that had we not left the cottage at that time, we wouldn't have been able to get out without help, and that help may not have come for a long time. So uh, pay attention. Sometimes there are warning. Spend time in nature. I'm I spend a lot of time in nature because we have a cottage that's in the woods, but I've never enjoyed it as much as I am enjoying it now, as I'm listening to people sharing, my tree hugging friends, and listening to the things that are happening with them as they intuitively uh, embrace nature. I'm doing a better job of it. I'm not a gardener. People that know me, come here in the spring, and I go and buy silk flowers at dollar store and put them in the dirt outside the house. That's my idea of gardening. Now I'm getting a little bit more excited about nature, although I've loved it, but participating differently. Nature has its own language. Do you remember Kim Whitman's testimony on when she was in Poland, and her back was hurting her, and she was having a hard time walking, actually, and this tree started talking to her and told her to step on its roots, and she went and did that, and you know what, she was healed. The pain went away completely. Those kind of things are, to me, are just so exciting, and that's all part of intuition, of knowing how to get into it with nature. When you are learning to ask about your, if you have questions to your, into something that happens to you, or that you want to know about, don't ask questions that just have a yes or no answer. That you can, like, should I go right, should I go left? Those are fine. But as you're developing, I'm going to challenge you to say questions like, should I do this? Or no, not should I do this? What do I need to understand about this? Because that brings you into a conversation with Father, doesn't it? And when you begin these conversations, start journaling them, because they're like dreams at times. And if you're not a journaler, you may want to start it, or talking to your phone, but start conversations. Um, this next thought is to practice following hunches. Trust and act on very small initiatives, intuitive things that happen. Start with low stakes situation, I'm calling them. If you have a sudden urge to call someone, visit a place, take a different route, follow it. what have you got to lose? Nothing, nothing, right? But as you start with these uh, intuition building kind of things, you start getting more confidence. And you could do things like uh, guess who's calling before you look at your phone, or you try to predict events. How about how many before you go on to your emails, how many emails came in? Start training yourself in these intuition building. They're small moments, but they can build confidence and sensitivity to your inner voice. There's nothing you have to explain to anybody or bet on. You're just doing it for yourself. When you start with these intuitive nudges, even if they don't make sense, when you experience a positive outcome, that confidence will begin a new trust for your intuition. One of the things that I do all the time, like this is all the time, is when I get in the car to go somewhere, I ask my intuition. I talk to my intuition, who is Father, and which way do I go? Should I turn left? Should I turn right? Should I go this way? Should I take that route? And I will do that, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10. And interestingly, lots of times I'll get, come to a, a dead end, not a dead end, but you have to stop and wait. And I sit there and I go, you know, I really feel that by this direction with my intuition, that this dead end isn't for me to get upset about or frustrated, but it's keeping me safe. It's for my good. So that helps me to build trust. When you start those small intuitive nudges, even when they don't make full sense, when you experience the outcomes, you'll build your confidence. Okay, and remember, in this, you're cooperating with God all the time, and you know what? God is good. He wants you to be yeah, to be really practiced in your intuitive life, in your sixth sense. One of the things that I think is important is to limit your outside input and your information overload. If you find yourself spending hours in doing something like getting information from Facebook or from certain things, take a look and ask yourself, is this information drowning out my intuitive voice? And it can actually lead to what some people call decision fatigue. So when you've got too much going on, take breaks. Take breaks from social media, from news, or whatever that's eating up your time, and hear your inner guidance without interference. Now, visualize. Visualization helps engage your intuitive mind, and it can lead to spontaneous insights and guidance. Imagine yourself in a scenario where you need guidance. Visualize yourself acting confidently and with clarity, and pay attention to any sensations, ideas, or feelings that emerge. You know what this is? That is your biggest help as well for setting an intention. Use your imagination. Put yourself into the scenarios that you are believing for. Picture these situations that you're uncertain about and visualize making different choices. See, a lot of what we're learning is understanding our ability in our imagination. And these are things that you don't have to take a course on. You just have to practice and try them and do it, see what works for you. When there's repetitive thoughts or ideas, pay attention. pay attention to thoughts that seem to stick, right? You know what they are. Sometimes there's a sudden clarity or knowing. Sometimes intuition provides instant clarity. It's like a light bulb moment. When the best choice or answer feels obvious, this is a signal to trust. One of the things that we learn, for instance, is when you're taking a true or false test, trust your first response. And that's not a bad thing with your intuition, period. Trust that first response because you can talk yourself out of things, right? You can, and you'll be surprised. And if you're practicing on things they're not life and death, then you are training up your sixth sense and you're hearing with clarity how it is that you can live in that. Emotional shifts, intuitive guidance may come through emotional responses, such as feeling calm. Have you ever felt completely crazy calm when the world's going crazy around you? Like it doesn't make sense, but trust it. Trust it. Or do you have do you remember a time where you just got super excited about an option that was placed before you without understanding why? Go for it. Go for it. Unexplainable pulls. Do you ever feel drawn or repelled to certain people, places, decisions without logical explanation? These pulls or gut warnings are worth noting. And the neat thing about this practicing and developing in our intuition is it's not something that you're playing out in public. These are things within you. It's like a private personal course that you're being tutored in because you're willing to you're willing to grow in this area. Synchronicities and signs. Notice unexpected coincidences that align with your thoughts or decisions because they can act as external validations of your intuition's messages. Watch for them. Watch, you think, and because we often, all of us often have said, there's no such thing as a coincidence, right? It is that universal field, the mind of Christ, that is actually speaking to us all the time. Sometimes small changes in our surroundings, or sometimes you'll overhear a conversation that might align with a question you have. Do you think that that's happening by accident? Something you might have insight or a confirmation on something. It could be on a TV commercial. You go, oh, I get it. Trust those. Trust that God can use whatever he needs to get your attention. One of the things that I pay attention to, and this is one of the most important, pay attention to your thoughts in the shower. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you're not doing anything, like you're in the shower, that it's just that quiet place, nobody's talking, just you and the water flow. Uh, how many times do you have conversations? How many creative thoughts have you had there? Nothing is fighting you in there, and it just feels like a free flow. Long walks will do that. Uh, a long swim. If you're a swimmer or runner, when I was running, I loved that. It was like the shower. There's so much that can happen when you're doing something mindless by rote, and you're just your mind, your intuitive mind has free reign, and it's absolutely feels wonderful. Creativity will open up to intuition. If you're an artist, if you are musician, painter, any of the arts, they will often open you up. Uh, and and just do it. Don't judge it. Don't try and figure it out. Just watch what happens when you bypass your logical mind and your intuition is enhanced in the art. Positive emotions like gratitude can help open your mind, heighten intuition. Keep the attitude of gratitude. Stay in that place. It is the best mental state that is receptive for intuitive thoughts. And at the end here, I just say reflect and review daily. At the end of each day, take a moment to reflect on times you followed or ignored your intuition and just make a mental note. The more aware we are, right? The more we are functioning, that we're living on purpose, and especially in these meditation processes and tonight in this in to develop and practice our intuition, because we have intuitive muscles and we strengthen them just like our other senses. The chef will, that their sense of taste, they'll taste the wine or they'll taste the sauce and they'll tell you exactly what's in it, because they didn't do that the first time they tasted it. They built their taste muscle to recognize things, even things that you see, things you feel. Be aware of them. And it's so helpful to treat intuition like any other skill. These skills improve with constant practice and mindful focus. That's how our intuition is as well. So the key is constant mindful practice and patience. Patience with yourself as you develop a more trusting relationship with your intuition. So my question is, here on the river in the last few weeks, we've had different opportunities for guided meditations, like thoughts about different things. And so I'd love to know what you're doing, and in particular, what results, if any, are happening in your life. What are the changes? So I'm going to come back to the gallery. That's all I can think of for intuition right now. And yeah, tell me what's happening in your meditation time, in your life, in your growing, not growing. Where are you? Did this intuition thing help at all? Was it is it okay? Yeah. Gina.
Um, I've been laughing at myself um, more and more in my practice of all of this. Because I'm observing, I talk to myself all the time. And I was walking today and I'm talking away to myself, and I'm just like, it's just thoughts, but I'm saying them out loud, like quietly, but it's what I do. And my husband always says, geez, like you're having just great time with yourself. Like, what a conversation. I said, I know, it's awesome. But anyhow, it's what I do. So, precursor there. I was walking along today saying something, and this lady, I guess, was looking at me like, are you talking to me? She didn't say anything, but I thought, I guess I'm really talking loud or something. But it's been helpful because it helps me to bring my thoughts into a focused um, area, because I can go all over the place in 8 different directions all at once, and it's in an instant. So, it's helpful for me. Um, but I'm trying to let my mind, in my conscious awareness, be in Christ consciousness. And so vocalizing it to myself is easier. I find myself in weird situations sometimes because of that, but oh well, whatever. It doesn't bother
No,
me. But um, so, and I also I'm understanding that my mind and the activity of my mind and these thoughts, which are, can be my reality. So vocalizing them and keeping them in the forefront of my awareness, I understand that these thoughts in my mind um, respond to what I believe. So if I can
yeah,
hear it, I can check it. And lots of times I would have a thought and, oh, isn't this going to be a great whatever? I have some idea. And then I say it out loud and it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, that is the dumbest thing ever. And so I'm glad I told somebody or said it out loud, because I thought, okay, whoa, that's ridiculous. Right. So for me, my mind will respond to what I believe. And my intimate experience, my experiential knowledge of something, um, I am finding moves my old mindset
yeah,
out of the way.
yeah,
And it's like an actual moving of, yeah, that's kooky. I'm not thinking that's ridiculous. Oh,
mhm,
yeah, that's an old mindset. Oh, yeah, I used to believe that. Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Are you kidding? I lived by that law, or I lived by that rule or thought or whatever. And we start, like, I'm having this conversation with my higher self, and I'm realizing, oh my goodness. I realize that old mindset, and it's this renewing of my mind. It gets out of the way, and then I realize, well, what's in the way and what's there for me instead then? And it's sort of fun because I don't know at that moment. All I know at that moment is
mhm,
that old mindset is getting out of the way, and I can
right,
see it, I can recognize it, I am aware that it's goodbye time, right? And um and then, because of what I already know in me, already exists in the field.
that's right.
So if I'm getting rid of the old mindset, oh my gosh, this is so fun. What can I pick? What would
Right.
I rather have?
Yeah.
What is my heart telling me that is way more interesting? What is the trade-off of the old mindset to the new? Wow, how fun is this? And meanwhile, I'm saying it all out loud. But it's helpful to me because I can hear it and it's real. It's not just a thought that I can dismiss. And sometimes when I don't say things just to myself, or whatever, I'm walking around the house or I'm doing gardening and I'm talking. Um, if I leave it inside, I can forget about it. It's like if you don't write down your dream,
Right,
you can forget about it. So if I
right.
say it, I've heard it.
Yeah, yeah,
And now that somebody said that to me, oh yeah, it was me. Oh yeah, it was my higher self telling me that or sharing that with me, or I realized such and so. And so that's what I've been doing, sort of just laughing at myself. Um, but it's been quite fun because
mhm,
it's in my everyday. engagement of
Right.
whatever it is I'm doing. I could be doing laundry. I could be, I mean, sometimes even at work, I'm sitting there talking, oh Lord. So I'm sitting there talking to myself. It's very, very interesting. And then I get to see how I'm responding. And I've also noticed I've observed that I've been really working on not being judgmental. Um, and so that's been going really well. But the thing that has slipped by me is judging myself. I do it all the time, all the time. And if I am talking out loud to myself, I'll hear myself cutting myself up for something. It's a way more powerful tool to catch when you hear it
Yeah,
than when you just think it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Gina,
it's been fun.
that's absolutely brilliant. When I first listening, I wrote down, "You're your own best friend and counselor." You know, it's but because the principles are all you've talked about, right? It's all stuff we're learning that
Mhm,
that when you do speak it out, when you hear it, you actually become the observer of it.
mhm.
Your sacred self is the observer of your
Yeah,
own self.
that's right.
And I and I think you nailed one of the things. Judging ourselves is one of the worst things well, that's a bad way to put it, but for
No, it
me,
is.
it's
Yeah.
one of the worst things that I do to myself.
Mhm.
God doesn't judge me, so
Yeah.
why would I not just tune into to have a conversation with my intuition, with
Mhm.
God on it, and see what course I'm supposed to be on or doing or whatever. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
I know. It takes a lot of energy to talk all the time.
It does, but um it's helpful for me. And then sometimes I love just being quiet, and I really love the silence and I don't like a lot of chatter and all that.
Yeah.
But I guess if it's just me, I can handle it.
Well, I love it. I love it. I can see you doing it.
Mhm.
That's so fun. Totally fun. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Eddie.
Yes, my dear. I have only two comments. One is uh, last uh, Wednesday, we Todd brought up the part about uh, turn the other cheek, whap
Mhm.
whap, and as you know, my father was came from Russia, and he was he was a Cossack in the revolution, was fighting, and he never talked about what he did or what happened. But when he came to Canada, he being a pacifist, uh, he became a farmer, and he had a gravel truck where he hauled gravel, and he would ask me to take and deliver 5 loads of gravel to this individual. And every time you dump a load of gravel, you get a ridge, like you get a a triangle. You dump the load, and you can't dump on top of it because you have to go against it. And I'd come home, and he would say, "Can you deliver the your fifth load to this guy?" And I'm going, "I delivered 5 loads." And he says, He said you only delivered four. And I'm going, we didn't have cameras or we had cameras, but didn't have cell phones, and I could have taken a picture of the 5 loads that I delivered, and I'm delivering a sixth one. But my dad says, I don't care, you have to go and deliver the fifth load, even though he wasn't calling me a liar, but he just called the other guy being truthful. And it infuriated me. And you wanted to punch the other guy out, never mind giving him a backhand, but I didn't. But speaking about today, intuition. This summer I was working with our friend who's an electrician, and we were working under the neighbor's house. And so we both crawled underneath the house, and there's not much room and stuff like this, and I'm watching him work, and all of a sudden he needs uh, a ground wire, like an extension, which just you cut another wire, and I handed it to him, and then he looked at it, and without saying anything, he looked at me again, and I handed him the wire cutters because we could see it was too long, and then all of a sudden he needed you could see he needed a crescent wrench, and without speaking, you hand him the crescent wrench, and after that, he didn't say anything. He didn't talk anything but intuition. But at the end, he said, I like working with you. And and I went, I like working with him because we could talk to each other without talking and knew what he wanted. So just thought I'd mention those two things, and slap slap. That's it.
Yeah, well, that is turning the other cheek big time, and it cost your dad money to do, didn't it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I know. Uh, yeah, I love that that we're even aware today of the importance of turning the other cheek, like of us doing the right thing, as it were. I really. Uh, I don't know. I just imagine if the world came to that place, right? Came to that place of just never mind, just bring the other load. And yeah, but you're intuitive a lot. We've talked about this. I know you, and you're very intuitive with people that you work with, but I also know that you've been very intuitive in stores where you've actually identified people stealing before they're stealing, not because they're walking around with a trench coat, but because you just know, because you know. Uh, these
Yeah,
are these are important.
I remember those times. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for sharing, Eddie. That's awesome. Lana.
Hello. Um, like Gina, I've been finding myself talking to myself quite a bit. And it's just hilarious because I'll be at work and I'll just be chuckling to myself. And honestly, it's because at times I would have been so frustrated otherwise. And it's just, I don't know whether I'm seeing a different side of it or the people. Anyways, it's been hilarious this last stretch that I've been working. And with regard to the meditation bit, I've been finding that after I sit and quiet myself, I start to journal. And some of the stuff that's coming out is just quite, you read it back to yourself and go, whoa, like, where is this coming from? Obviously, it's coming from me. But anyways, can I just share a little bit of what I got the other day? I wrote, life is meant to be lived, loved, and in harmony with nature. I need to go spend time in the woods. Go sit on a rock, like the one on my walk at Pelican Lake. The chair rock. It was very large, and I would go sit and ponder. Question, meditate? It was on a field, possibly part of an old golf course. It was energizing, and I loved that rock. I said, I love that rock. I always wanted to have a family picture there. Then I put fancy, reminded me of how the kids gave Scott and I a family photo opportunity. This was not something that I wanted to do. I knew then this was broken. I did not want to see it in photos. But you know what? There was healing in that too, right? Because it brought up something that like
Yeah.
my body knew, and it's like, wow. Anyways, it's been
But
very powerful.
I love that. I love that because a lot of times when I'm in conversation with people, journaling doesn't come up, and I find the same thing after you sit in a place where it's almost like you've gone into another zones, another room,
Yeah.
another, you know, and then when you start to write, it doesn't even feel like it's you writing. And
No,
you read it and you think, really and truly.
very powerful.
But let's think about this too. There's so many times that we we have angst within ourselves, right? And the answer is right there. The answer is within us. And
Mhm.
how amazing is that? And that's just illustrated one of the ways, like Gina, was talking to herself. She was her best friend and counselor. You're journaling. You became your best friend and counselor.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
doing that, and it comes from within because you're connected to the field where everything is.
Yeah.
Love that, Lana. That's so good.
It's been huge and
Yeah,
very healing.
very good.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Betty.
Yes, I have a comment, but I also have a question with regards to all this. I know for myself, I always used to question everything that I thought. I think, oh, like I don't think that's right, and I'm not hearing from the Lord, and I don't know this. And then and then every once in a while I would share, and whoever I shared it with, they'd say, "Oh yeah," like they believed it. So I started believing in myself, and now I, even if it may not be 100%, but I always share now. And most of the time yeah, it's exactly what someone needs to hear or what I need to know, and and it's just so nice because of course the more it happens, then the easier it is to share and the easier it is for me to say, and like I say, it's not always maybe 100%, but and it's I find that very exciting, like to
Yeah.
for that to happen. Yeah. And then but then my question is, with, um, okay, so I, I have an intention of something that I want, I feel, I want a certain outcome and something for my husband. However, in my heart, I'm feeling that it's not going to happen. So I'm thinking, so how do I deal with that? Like, do I continue to pray that intention? Yes, it's going to happen. Or I guess I don't know how to deal with that because in my heart, I'm really feeling, no, it's not going to happen as much as I want it to happen. I'm thinking I'm not so sure. So that's sort of that question.
Wow, Betty, that's really, really, really a good question. First of all, you said something that's probably one of the best statements of the evening. Believe in yourself. We need that t-shirt, right? Believe in yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and that actually is your answer to your question.
That
Believe in yourself. Believe in the power that you are in I am, and go with it. What have you got to lose?
Okay, like don't believe in what
No,
in
no.
in the negative aspect.
Well, did the negative come second or first?
Mm, I know it's just a sense that I'm getting.
Oh, okay. Well, and things change, Betty. Like, sometimes there's so many circumstances in our life, right, that bring about what it is that we're encountering or with our intention. If there are, you're the only one who can determine what it is. But I'd say believe in yourself. If you were able to set an intention
Right.
where, okay, when Jesus told everybody go to the tomb because Lazarus was going to come out,
Mhm.
and they said, no, he can't, she can't, he can't. He's been in there dead for 4 days. Now he stinks.
Mhm.
Did
Right.
he listen? No, he stayed with the original intent. And it didn't matter who said what. He stayed with the original intent.
Okay.
And I'm not telling you to do that. I'm
No.
just telling you to believe in yourself
Yes.
because that's where the miracles are.
Yes. Okay. I understand. I'm getting it.
I don't know all your situations, so I'm hoping that this is speaking.
Can I
Prop-
interject for a second?
Yes.
When you turn on a radio and there's a dial
Right.
and you tune into, let's say, the news or a program you like to listen to or some kind of music. So you're paying attention to that because you want it to be clear, right?
Right.
And then, so that's what you and your body experience, that channel. So if you can picture tuning into the frequency of your intention
Right.
and making that clear
Mm.
and listening to and enjoying that channel, right?
Yes.
Because it's a frequency, because it's your desired result.
Yes.
So thoughts in that frequency will create feelings in that frequency, will create actions in that frequency,
Yeah.
and will create results in that frequency.
Yes. Okay.
So if you can stay tuned and discipline yourself to stay tuned, because it's fear and anxiety and I don't
Yes.
know if I'm right and mistrust and unbelief and all this stuff that we've been taught
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
But if we can stay tuned to dial in to the frequency that you desire, that is the thing that will change the reality of the end result.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. That is so good. Yes, because this other thing is sort of coming in and it's like,
Hmm.
oh.
It wants to. It's an old thing. It's an old mindset. It's an old habit. And you want the clarity of the frequency that you are dialing into.
Yeah.
So stay there. So
Thank you.
dial in. If you have to dial it in again and fix those rabbit ears and put, tinfoil on them, do it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yes. Okay, thanks.
We're in training. We are training. We're practicing. We're in training. And the best part is we're in it together. How great is that? How Greg or Crystal?
Maybe we'll both share a little. I've I'm far too busy during the day to spend the time I should. So what I like to do is, especially during the night, and I'll just last night it was like, Lord, I really want to have conversation with you. And so I felt like during the night he gave me a dream. I think it was like an angelic being interacting with me, or anyway, it was just this life scenario. And I could like I in my dream I snapped at him, just nasty. And I could see the progression of how I got there. And it's like the Lord showing me my own woundedness and how that transfers into a different part of me. Or, just bad, whatever. Anyway, after that, I wake up and then I bring it to the Lord instead of trying to, I'm going to do it better, and it's sort of Ian Clayton's quartz idea. I just bring it all and then just let it sit and wait. And I feel like the Lord is kind of dealing with it. So that's one thing. Another dream I've had was related to the house, where I felt like I was in a pit and I ran out of the pit and I jumped into this random SUV that was there and I started driving it, and then there was mud and water, and then it became like there was rapids. It was like 2 feet deep. You should not be able to drive through this, and I did. And then I was going uphill in the mud, and you shouldn't be able to do that. I could do that. And then I was bouncing off these boulders, which SUVs just don't do. And I came to a place of peace, or yeah, a high place. And it's just so much a picture for us about how we're doing this house, because we both feel like we are way in over our heads and we've made a lot of big mistakes. It's been 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Very hard not to get disappointed. And it's an opportunity to practice seeing it finished, seeing it, the next step done, and then releasing it in thankfulness. So, and there's been at least 2 very major errors that the Lord's brought us around that I didn't think were even possible. But so we're encouraged.
Yeah.
And still beyond what we know what we're doing, but
Yeah.
I hope you're doing some kind of a journal or picture so that you can remember all the miracles too.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, good for you, because you're I love it that you're using the night season and letting God just use it,
Mhm.
He's up anyway, so what can we say?
Yep.
Gives
And
us the yeah.
Crystal has something, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna just say too, with your intuition and listening and hearing, there have been numerous times where, again with the house, where I've felt, I don't know how to build a house from scratch or whatever, but there's been numerous times where I look at what's there and I'll get a feeling that this is not right. And the first time, I was convinced out of it. Said, no, we can make it work. This is right. This is fine. This is right. And it turned out to be a big issue that came back at and bit us a couple times. Anyway, we finally got it fixed out. Now it's fine. But now there have been after that, there were other times where I'm not at the site all the time. I'm working. I'll come after work and I'll look at this. I'm going, that something's not right. Then I think about it and I'm going, yep, there's something not right. And I take it sometimes to Grace, usually to our manager, and I say, this is not right. And he'll argue with me. No, it's right. It's right. It's right. And I go, okay, I don't know, but this is what I'm seeing. And I'll lay it out, and he's kind of going, oh, yeah, you're right. and I won't back down anymore. It's exactly what you're saying. I won't back down. I feel like, no, God is showing me in my spirit that there's something not right. I'll figure it out, and then I try and explain it to
Diplomatically.
yeah, to others. But yeah, it's been again and again. So it's been really interesting to work on that and the whole nature thing, because yeah, there have been times where it's been really overwhelming, and we have like kind of a forest area right behind our house where we're building, and there have been numerous times where I just have to leave for a bit and I go walk for 15 minutes. And there one time I was just like crying out to the trees, to the Lord, to the whatever, just saying, I can't handle this. Is like, this foundation is just crappy. And I felt like the trees were laughing at me. And I went, what? And they kind of went, like yeah, it had to do with the straightness of the. I was lamenting the straightness of the foundations, and they laughed and they looked at me and they kind of said, "What's straight on the tree? Are our foundations not firm and strong and everything?" And like I just went, "Okay, fine." And, and it worked out afterwards, and it did get straightened and everything. But it was again hearing the joy of the Lord, hearing the strength of you know what, God is bigger. The trees knew that I just needed to calm down and maybe laugh a little bit, relax, and yeah, it's just been a really good time of hearing, taking that moment like you guys were talking about of being in nature, hearing again the bigger picture, the louder voice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Lord's voice.
The Lord's voice, yeah, the still small voice, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's been really neat, and just pressing into the Lord more and more and saying, yeah, Lord, do that again and again. If there is problems, let me see them. And it's happened numerous times, even though like I'll look at it and go, this isn't right.
So that was when I build things.
Well, well, no, the thing is the last one was the stairwell. Like Greg built it exactly how the plan said, and I looked and I went, it's wrong. And he showed me on the plans. I said, yeah, the plans are wrong. And we figured it out, and we found out, yeah, the plans were wrong for the width of the stairwell was too narrow. We wanted the wider stairwell, and so he was able to at that point fix it fairly easily. But
Not easy.
not easy, but waiting longer would have made it worse,
It was
harder.
it was worth it.
Yes.
Wow.
Crystal, have you seen Greg with a four-wheel Jeep with an elevated chassis?
Yeah. Well, that was very encouraging to us. That was an encouraging dream.
You guys are doing really great. I love when your intuition becomes practical, right?
Yeah, totally.
That is how we're created to be. Like we're created to be supernaturally natural. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Wow. Todd, okay, was there someone else on?
Yeah, I don't know why my hand went down, but it did. Maybe I'm not supposed to talk.
Well, please don't feel that way. I'd like.
This is something I haven't heard anybody else mention, but twice I think it would be because of stress, because I'm speaking to a crowd, but sometimes it's not. So I have these things where I leave my body and I can hear myself speaking. I can see myself speaking, and yet I don't think I'm speaking. It's really not me because I'm out of my body. So some of it's stress. Maybe I'm not tuned into the right frequency. Anybody else had an experiences like that? I've had it a few times.
Is this like recurring so that it's natural for you?
No, it isn't natural. I think when I'm out speaking, of course, I'm stressed. That's not a common thing for me.
Okay.
So a couple of times it has been when I'm speaking to a crowd and I leave my body. I feel like, I'll tell you what it feels like. It feels like something's coming at me. And so I need to get out of the way and I leave my body. And that could be possible. Like the black and the white sort of thing. I don't know if anybody else has had experiences like that or not.
I'm going to open it up to everybody. I have no grid for that.
Neither do I. That's why I'm asking. But anyway,
I do. I do. I think I lived my whole life outside of my body until I came to more awareness. I came from a family that loved me, but we were not emotionally connected. The communication was not there. I found out just recently that it's what is called childhood emotional neglect. And I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but it's done. It's just where the parents don't understand all the emotional aspects and the connection and the nurturing that way. And I scored like 99 out of 100. I mean, I just really came from that. And it's been a real slow process for me to inhabit my body because I was just not in touch with anything that was going on. Well, then later on, when I embodied myself, when all that understanding started coming to me, I realized that when I get stressed out, I do that.
aha,
I vacate.
yeah.
I vacate. And it may just be a pattern of that learned in childhood. But for me, I just leave. I function perfect. Nobody knows anything's really wrong or anything like
Right.
that. But I lived my whole life like that until there was, when I got saved, there started to be a breaking of that. But it's been a long, hard journey. And that's a normal place for me to live um, when any kind of stress comes. I vacate my body. I do everything that you need to do. I'm just functioning out of a stress response.
Right.
That's what
Yeah,
I
you
do.
hit it right on.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I think,
Wow.
yeah. And that whole learned pattern, I can remember when I was 30 years old, somebody gave me a chart that had emotions written on it. And it was a moment, there was just a moment of clarity. I just broke down within me. I didn't know what sad meant. I didn't know what any of those feelings were. There was no identification with them. But yet I functioned just outside of my body my whole
Right.
life. It's weird, but and I've really, when I've tried to explain it to people, I mean, they don't even know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But it's real, and you're functioning like 100%, but you're
Yep.
not in there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with it because my childhood was just a disaster.
Yeah.
And it probably, it triggers every now and again.
Yeah.
Haven't done that for some time,
Yeah.
but just wondered if yeah, it's very good. Thank you very much.
Well, I definitely can identify with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Anyway.
When you started sharing, I just instantly heard a trauma response. And I believe that we're supposed to be observers from a different place. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, if you ever have an opportunity, look up childhood emotional neglect. And, it sounds really horrible, but
And it is.
it is for the children, but
Yes.
it's not usually done intentionally. It's
Right.
done from lack of knowledge and lack
Yeah.
of, yeah. So that makes it where it's, I think there was 4 of us kids. I think I was the one, don't know why, but I was the one most operating in that. Everybody else was a little more in tune.
Wow.
But nobody would have known that I wasn't in tune, because I still functioned like I was supposed to function. It was kind of like being a robot.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that throughout my childhood. It was older. I was much
Yeah.
older when I was speaking and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
But there must have been something in there that still hadn't been corrected. I haven't done it for a while, so thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well-
I can do it. I mean, I catch myself doing it now, and my awareness, of course, is way more than it was, back then. But now when I do it, I'm aware that I'm doing it, and and it's obvious to me that it's just, it's stress. It's that fight or flight is triggered. It's survival. And that fight or
Probably.
flight
Mhm.
that's triggered, And now when the fight flight comes, when that emotion comes, that survival emotion, now I freeze. And I used to fight flight. I used to flight, and now I find myself, that response comes in as a freeze. And but it's stress for me.
So my question is, when that comes, is that like, now if you freeze, and I've had my own trauma from my childhood, but like if you have come to a spot where you're not running anymore and you're freezing, is that it's time to just sit in that, to be able to let everything stir up, and so that you can move on? Because if this is triggering you and holding you back from everything that the Lord has for you, I don't know.
No, I absolutely, yeah. It is at this point in my life, it is exactly what you said, where, okay, I'm in freeze. We know this is stress. We know. So I sit in it, and when I acknowledge it and feel it, it dissipates. But that's been something that I've learned to do. Before I learned to do that, of course, back then it was just, I didn't even know I was doing it. And
Right.
then when I knew I was doing it, gradually I have learned to sit in it and let it be and feel it, and let it
Well,
pass through.
yeah.
That's it, Judith. If you acknowledge it and don't freeze or fight or flight, but just acknowledge it, you'll feel it dissipate.
Mhm.
Oh, yes, it does. I
Mhm.
recognize that this is happening to me. I just keep talking, but I'm not in my body.
Mhm.
But it hasn't happened for some time, so that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Wow. Well, that was certainly a new understanding and experience. And I would hope that as you continue, if you need to learn more, that you'll get the answers.
Yeah, well, I've asked, but I think I've come to my own conclusion.
Right.
It's when I am stressed, if I am saying something that somebody doesn't like, I feel like it comes at me and I leave my body
Mhm.
and I just keep talking.
Right.
It's
Well,
weird.
that's when you talk to yourself and you tell them, I am health.
That's
I am whole.
I do that now.
Good.
And by the
Awesome.
way, that is a wonderful thing. I am,
Mhm.
how,
Put you back in your body.
no,
Yeah.
I am not totally healed. I forgot what you said, Hel. Divinely healed.
I am divine health.
I
Divine
am
health.
divinely healed. I am. When I say that 3 times, something really shifts.
That's good.
You feel it.
Awesome. It's supposed to.
And can I add
Yeah.
one extra thing? What I've been finding personally is as I'm doing this journaling, I'm working through my feelings and what I like,
That's right.
everything with regard to leaving my husband almost 3 years ago. So I'm coming to that place where you know what? This journaling is helping me in so many different ways because I am worthy. I am worthy. You are worthy.
Absolutely.
You
Thank
do
you.
not
Good.
need to stay in that spot of your childhood.
Mhm.
That's right.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's right.
When I
Well,
was
we've-
listening to you guys speak about this phenomenon, I was thinking, well, goodness, what we heard last week and what we heard today, and the meditation time and the being in the stillness of it with Father,
Mhm.
seems to me, and I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, to be a key here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This whole process that we're talking about right now, it's not a thing separate from what it is we're talking about
Mhm.
at this moment.
Mhm.
If we take what we're learning and bring it into that
Mhm.
sacred space,
Yes.
our sacred self then can rise up, and we can let God arise in that
Yes.
phenomenon, whatever we're calling it. And like you were talking about, it will dissipate because you are
Okay.
not that. That is your old mindset,
That's right.
and that is your lower self
That's right.
rearing its head, right?
Yes.
And so as we sit in the stillness, in the Father, in the meditation, and in the quiet of who we really are, we can reset the old
Yeah.
mindset. We can reset the old
Mhm.
Mhm.
and what's in store for you then? Wow, what a great journey to find that out.
Man.
Yeah.
and
Well,
what
Well said, Gina. Well said.
yeah, and that
That-
must have happened because along the journey, because I haven't had that experience
Right.
for some time.
Mhm.
and I
Thank
But
think
I still like to fly.
Good.
I love to fly.
Mhm.
Well, good. Fly on, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Gina. You made it. That was a really, really good
Yeah.
way of bringing it all together. Miss Elizabeth and Jen.
Yeah, that was fascinating to listen to. I was getting, I don't know, I might be way off, but like even Debbie, when you were a young child going through that, just this sense of like our higher self, the Lord, God's like, come up here. Now let this work out, but I've got you. And then as you're older, working when you're able to work through those emotions and whatever. But that's what I was seeing. And I was like, oh my
That's
gosh,
good.
I felt like, because I've listened to, a lot of near-death experiences, and it just made me think of, come, you're okay, come here.
That's good.
But while your body was still, working it out, that's what I was feeling. And I feel like both of you, when just being extra sensitive to spirit, even being able to, for that to happen.
Well,
What
I tell you what, for me, it's a huge full circle. And what you just said about the Lord protecting you through that, I have realized that because I was probably mentally, I'm sure it has a dissociative type, connotation to it. And but what amazes me is to see my life now. Talk about coming full circle. I mean, I was way below the start line, way below. And so to be involved with a group of people like you, I mean, I feel like the Lord, I mean, that's miraculous to come from where I came from and to be in a group like this. I mean, but the journey out of that did not start until I was the very cracking of it. I was 31 years old. And
Wow.
so I lived in that for quite a while,
Mm.
you know. And then the coming out of it has been a long, long process. And but now it's the freedom into life.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
There's such a huge contrast, and you know, it just amazes me that the Lord, you know, He's working in our lives. I promise you, I'm not the only one that He's working in my life. He's doing the exact same thing in all of our lives. It's just that for it to be on in that area, it
Yeah.
produces such a drastically different perspective of life, you know. And so
That's amazing.
yeah, I'm sure that it has some kind of you know, true mental you know, dissociative type. It was a dissociation, but
Sure.
I don't think it was like multiple personality or anything like that. I don't think it was that, but there was definite disassociation and cognitive dissonance is huge
Right.
was huge in that. So now, just like when we talk about second guessing our intuition, that comes in so quickly for me. I've got a strong intuition, but then I've got this backlash that comes in, you know, right on top of it. But you know, I think that's part of what I'm coming out of is so, you
It
know.
is.
Yeah.
Wow. This journey that's been
Uh-huh.
forcing you, propelling you into this freedom, into this higher consciousness.
Yeah.
Just we
Yeah.
talked about at the beginning. Like I just had read about in the book, Helen, we were talking about that book, The Map of Consciousness, about addiction and how the guy who started AA had this encounter with God and the room
Mhm.
filled with light. But from this encounter unfolding came forth the, what is it, 12 steps of AA. But it's a way to bring someone who it's like, well, what I read was that that was their journey or their path that their higher self chose for them. You know, this addiction, because bad addiction is either death or this complete surrender. And these 12 steps have the ability to raise someone from like the lowest, you know, where it's almost death up until like love, which not much of the world gets to that place. I don't know if it's unconditional love or love, but that was just amazing. So as you were saying that, I was even thinking like your because of this, and we all could say, you know, what unique to us, but it's like this was our unique path
Right.
forcing us, you know, hopefully into freedom, which is like, you know, just this swimming, no, freedom, freedom. But that's how I was hearing it.
Yes.
So that's amazing.
And that higher consciousness, right? Like
Yeah.
we live in a 3D world, but that does not mean it defines us.
Yeah.
So we
No.
get to see from that higher perspective.
Yeah. Just amazing.
Yeah.
So I was going to share on intuition. I love that we're talking about it, Helen, because and how you gave the examples of like practicing, you know, sensitizing ourselves to this, you know, intuition, this sense. And I was like, can I remember any examples? I know, you know, that sometimes it's hard to remember specific examples, but I did have one and I'm like, okay, I'll share it. I was driving with Jen home from church and I always go, I like how you asked, go left or right, but I always go one way. And I went a different way. Like I turned off a different exit and I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to go through all these lights. And, you know, I mean, hard life, right? But all of a sudden I realized, I was like, there's a reason. Because it's so not, there's a reason why I am on this path. And
Mm.
so I tuned in, and there was a homeless guy there with a sign. And
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I tuned into the sign, and I tuned into the guy, and I'm like, this is why God sent me here.
Mm.
And I felt an amount of money to give him, but it was, and I know it was that helping, but it was such despair in his face. The sign said, he had lost everything to a fire. And I talked to him as long as I could at the light. Just like talking to me, he burst out in tears. He said, it is so hard being out here, homeless. And I just felt like it was so purposeful. It was
Yeah.
so powerful. And, I just reached, the light turned, I just, reached my hand out, and I just felt the power of God. I
Oh,
just
that's
felt hope.
good.
Like
So
it's
good.
making me tear up because it was so powerful.
So good.
And so I love that. And often, where I'm in my own, okay, well, I'm going home from church, we're gonna go have lunch, blah, 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 my own, but our I am presence is like, you
Mm.
vessel. I want to pour through you. We're gonna do this, and so just being aware and being that vessel, just yielded, okay, and letting his words, letting our, letting it flow. So anyway, that's what I had to share.
I'm so good. That
Yeah.
is so good.
It's so good.
Yeah. We're going to come away from this remembering a lot of things that really are, we are led by our sixth sense. It is far more fully developed than we think it is. It's just the importance of it. For me, is that it developed to the point where as our meditation in the field of as we become the field, it just comes to the next step of you hearing me in the intuition, right?
That's so good. That's so good.
That we intuit together. I'm just believing so far beyond where I am right now.
Oh, that's so
I can
good.
see it happen. I can see it happen.
I love how you said that the field is the mind of Christ.
Yes.
I mean, when I think about it, I go, well, of course it is, but I had never thought that before, And I mean, we're swimming in the mind of Christ. I mean,
All possibility is there.
it's in us and we're in it. But I mean, and Jen, I love so much that I'm afraid that I could have gotten flustered and just tried to get back on my path with the road and everything. But that really encourages me to, next time when I get in a situation like that, I pray that I remember that and let him flow through me, just like you did in the midst of that, because I'm more inclined to think, I wasn't paying attention or whatever, and I lost my way, rather than thinking, wait a minute, this is God,
That's right. Totally.
Mhm.
Totally. I love that.
Mhm.
Love that.
So good.
I love that we think, how can I bless? I love that.
Yes.
Liz, yeah. How can I make a difference? Mr. Abe, you've been very patient.
Yeah, it's all right. I love listening and learning. My intuition was right about joining this group.
Yes.
So there you go. When you started speaking tonight, and you said meditation, I love meditating. I do it, it's part of what I do every day. My intention begins with setting my mindset in a positive mindset, so I think of love, I think of allness, forgiveness, hope, joy, compassion for self. So when I write in my journal, and either I'm talking to God or God is talking to me,
Mhm.
that He's never used an egoistic term with me. He calls me my beloved,
Oh,
my child. And I know that's God talking to me, because if it wasn't, I'd be too self-critical. I won't have that compassion to speak to myself in that manner. Yes, it's a beautiful practice. And as you talked about that, what came to mind, what's the difference between intuition and discernment,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Intuition versus discernment. And I Googled it, so and it came up beautifully. Let me put on my glasses because I got my contacts in. And it says intuition is the ability to understand something immediately based on feeling without the need for conscientious reasoning. Discernment is the ability to maintain your integrity by aligning your thoughts and action with your intuitive guidance.
Wow.
And, and to me, discernment is when you concentrate on the spiritual versus, the egoic mindset. And it, the it puts you in a place of discovery of self, your divine self, not your materialistic self, if you will, or your egoistic self. And I think that's what grows us, where love, honesty with self, purity of heart, selflessness, all those beautiful virtues that I think our highest selves, when we're in contact with God, we aspire to. And the lady that mentioned the 12-step program, I come from a 12-step program. Um, that spiritual awakening, when all of a sudden, boom, that happened to me. My personal experience, I think that's how I started sharing with Helen, like 7 years ago. I had that awakening where I felt there was such a hole in myself that no matter how much I acquired, how much places I visited, I've been a lot of places all around the world, all these things that I was looking to feel like, I don't know, make me feel important, make me feel something, intelligent, whatever the case may be. But nothing filled that. And all of a sudden, that small, still voice out of nowhere says, you need God in your life. Point blank. That's what you need. And since that day to today, that's what I've been chasing, my spiritual self. How can and two-way prayer, I wish I won't do what I forget the lady that read her entry, but if I read you today's entry, you'll be amazed as to what came to, and I'll read a little bit, what not. This is what God told me today, this morning. I'm just going to read a few lines. Dear son, I am guiding you. I am taking you by the hand, leading your body, mind, and spirit to dwell within the within of us. And and when you have that relationship with just, life goes on, problems occur, the world is in a chaos if you listen to the news or get into anything. But none of that takes you off that centered, that everything's going to be okay, that things are going to work out, the house is going to get built, the car is going to get fixed, all my needs are going to be met, and I could be useful to others. Man, that's just, I don't know what is more rewarding in life to me, that's living in fullness. And everything you do, there's a sweetness about it. Whether I'm bicycling to the park like I did this morning, reading, writing, whatever it is, you know. And finally, I'm like a dog with a bone. I don't let it go. They turning the other cheek. Uh, you know, Emmett Fox is one of my favorite writers. He really opened my when I started this journey. He was one of the first authors that I came across, and he explains a lot of the biblical um, parables, and so he took Sermon on the Mount, and with that particular phrase, turning the other cheek. And he talks about, and I won't read the whole thing, I want to bore you, but this has come directly from him, okay? That Jesus was the master metaphysician. In other words, he concerned himself with states of consciousness. He didn't tell you how to act. He tell you, hey, if it's in between your ears, this is. So turning the other cheek was a mental state that you don't resist. That which you resist persists,
Yeah.
right? So basically is when somebody, and he goes on to say, as turning the other cheek literally for a blow, such a proceeding will be in the least degree unlikely to do anything but harm both parties. And we should note particularly that Jesus, when he was struck in the room in Pilates' courtroom, right? He was struck in the face. He didn't turn the other cheek. He met his enemies with great dignity. The instruction about turning the other cheek refers to changing one's thought when faced by error, changing it from error to truth. And as a rule, it acts like magic. And he goes on to further explain it, you know, where, you know, and I'll leave it at that. Is Sermon on the Mount. If you haven't read it, by Emmett Fox. It is a beautiful, great read. It's in that language of the 30s. So you have to read it nice and slow and savor it. And it'll be better if you just actually have it in front of you and you read it. And I think it will open your eyes to new understanding. Thank you for letting me share, guys.
Oh, that is excellent. That is so excellent. Thank you. You can share anytime. I just wrote down what you resist exists. How good is that? So many nuggets, Abe, in that. Thank you for choosing us. That's awesome.
I think this is the beautiful thing about what we're learning, though, because we can be in the stillness and sit in meditation, and Father, God, Creator, Source will speak in you about you, and it is profound.
That's right.
And if we will just believe it and know that it is us he's talking about, because it's him he's talking about, and because we are one.
Exactly.
That's the beautiful thing. It is at our disposal. The kingdom of heaven is at hand.
Amen.
It's right there, and we just have to sit in it.
Wow. Wow. What a rich evening. Thank you everybody for sharing. Thank you. Thank you for giving grace to each other and responding to each other, and thank you for the just the wisdom and the love and the compassion that you're all showing. Thank you so much. I just come away absolutely changed. I just love each and every one of you. Thank you. And I just want to say bless you, and may God bless you and keep you. make his face to shine on you, be gracious unto you. As he lifts up his countenance upon you and gives you his grace. We thank you, Father. We thank you. Thank you for the grace. And Lord, for all those this week that have just come with their problems, with the situations in their lives, with their with illnesses that have come on. Lord, you know each and every heart. You know each and every situation, each and every home. And Lord, we thank you that we can stand with them in our heart. And we do that right now. Lord, we just stand and we say, by the stripes of Jesus, we are divine health, divine wholeness. Lord, I thank you that there is room for everyone. Lord, I thank you that as we see you in the reality of I am, that we step with you, in you, to be you. Lord, thank you. We are so grateful, so grateful. Amen.